Okay, so I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start this tour with a pre-flight announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome on board this algrano service, flights AL001 to La Dorada International Airport at Guatemala City. My name is Luiza, and it is my pleasure to command the flight today. The weather forecast of our destination is looking very promising. We expect a temperature of 28 degrees Celsius and sunny intervals. As we're not really traveling, you might want to adjust the settings of your heating, of your central heating, to match the aforementioned specification and ensure a more realistic experience. Please remember that as this is not a real flight, smoking is permitted at any time. There are no bags to place into the overhead locker, and you can keep your small items over the table in front of you. For a prompt departure, we will kindly ask that you put your mobile devices on airplane mode. Sadly, we do not offer any in-flight service in this aircraft with a selection of overpriced snacks and questionable hot beverages. You can use the remaining time of this announcement to survey your kitchen cabinets. Ladies and gentlemen, we now ask for your attention while we'll take you through the communication procedures in this aircraft. Please say hello to our flight attendant, Maria. Maria, hello.
Hello, welcome on board.
Maria will be available to support you with any technical issues you may encounter along the way. Do not hesitate to call her. Our crew has prepared a series of questions for guests as part of our in-flight entertainment package. Please refer to the chat button on the navigation bar to answer them or propose further questions. You may also click on raise hand on the chat session if you wish to speak directly to the crew. We'll have a Q&A at the end of this tour, so we're able to enable everyone's screen so they can see you and you can see them. We remind you that this flight is being recorded for educational purposes and will be available on our website for future reference. Thank you again for traveling with algrano. We wish you a pleasant journey. So welcome everyone. Thanks for the patience of hearing this onboarding announcement. Just to let you know, so Maria will be helping me as we talk, and as the Mario, Chris, and I will talk more about this and guide you through the trip. Maria can help you with the more technical sides of things. So if you're struggling with anything, just let her know. So before I introduce myself and talk a little bit more about what we're doing here, I just want to announce that we have a trip selfie competition going on. So we have to be creative to take trip selfies in this. Usually origin trips are great opportunities to load our SD cards with amazing photos. But here, so the best selfies from this trip, they will send the winner a package of coffees from the producers in this call. So you just have to take a photo, creative one. You can take a screenshot of this and think about how you want to do your photo afterwards. But take a photo, tag algrano and tag Truth Trading Co. as well. Hashtag Vamos a Guatemala, and we will be selecting a winner next week. So just do it on social media and we'll be able to track and locate you. So why did we decide to do a virtual origin trip? So with coronavirus came all the travel bans, everyone knows about it. And as a tech company at algrano, we're always trying to find digital ways of making things happen. The fact that we can't travel, we believe, shouldn't stop us talking to each other, sharing experiences, and exchanging all the kind of information that makes trips to origin so enriching. There will be limitations, of course, to what a virtual origin trip can do, but we believe that there's some major positives as well. When I was in Guatemala this February preparing the discovery campaign, so the promotional campaign for the Guatemalan coffees, I was with Christian and Mario. So Christian and Mario, if you can say just hello so everyone can see you too.
Hi. Hi, how are you?
Christian and Mario, they are all exporting partners. They're also coffee producers. They own a company called Truth Trading Co. So I was with them. They were guiding me through the country, and they completely destroyed me. Like it was so it was a really hard trip. It was amazing. It was like a very full-on week of just going like farm hopping. It's like going from farm to farm, waking up at 5:30 in the morning, going to bed after midnight. I put some of it into the Google Earth document that we shared with you guys this week, and that we're not showing here just because we trialed it. It makes the whole call very heavy, so that's why we're just doing like some screenshots of it. But I shared that kind of experience more on that document, and because origin trips they are a mixed bag. It's like at the end you feel like a fuzzball. You're super excited. You have a lot to share, but you also kind of feel like you want to die because you're super tired and you can't really. So it's really nice to be able to enjoy a virtual trip from my home, very comfortable, starting in the afternoon, very civilized time, and in drinking a coffee that I actually enjoy rather than something that I'm just like find on the road, and that's like very questionable. We also wanted to talk a little bit about why we chose Guatemala to do our first virtual origin trip. So we have a discovery campaign offering coffees from Guatemala at the moment. So you can see that at the platform. So this is part of all the promotion that we try to do for these coffees once we start a campaign. But Chris and Mario, they're also meant to come to Europe in the end of March. So they would be March and April in Europe, doing like traveling around different countries, doing visits to roasteries, going to events, going to cuppings, and of course, when coronavirus happened, all flights got cancelled. Mario and Chris got stuck in the in the US for a bit. Then they had to go back to Guatemala before lockdown. I remember, I think Mario you said that you had to rent an Airbnb, right?
Yeah.
Because you couldn't be near your wife.
No.
And Christian had to be at the farm as well, like both quarantining. So it was a real shame that we couldn't do those trips with them. So we decided to do a virtual trip here now, so we can kind of like have a bit of that shared experience. And there's another reason why Guatemala was like our country of choice. When I was visiting them in this February, the producers really impressed me. There's something really special about Guatemala, I think that, and I can say that as being Brazilian and knowing a little bit about like the underdog culture that many Brazilian people have. Guatemalans, they seem to be like the very opposite of that. They have like a very strong sense of identity, a very strong sense of pride in what they do. So at Algrano, what we try to do is that we always try to put the growers first. We want to be like in the background, more as taking care of the operational side, and we want to make sure that the growers are the protagonists, not only of the stories but also of the transactions that take part in the platform. And when I was in the car with Chris and Mario on one of our many long trips, because the traffic's horrible from Guatemala City to anywhere else, so we had a lot of time to talk. We discussed a little bit about how there's a lot of this pity narrative surrounding coffee producers, and many roasters kind of embrace it. And I was a roaster before, I embraced it in the past, so I say that like having done that myself. So that kind of thing, like, the producers are poor, I have to buy the coffee to help them, that kind of narrative. And the sentiment in that is very nice, but the narrative itself isn't. Like, I don't think it does people many favors. So these guys in Guatemala, we talked about it, and they're like, they're not having any of it. Like they said, there's no pity marketing in Guatemala. They're entrepreneurs that own the narrative, even that the work that they do with smallholders, and Karin can speak about that afterwards, encourages everyone to take ownership of what they do. And that is amazing. So that's why Guatemala was where we wanted to land first. So continuing, we have here like the people that are joining us, the producers that are joining us, other than Chris and Mario, Karen. So Karen Hernandez. Karen, you can say hello, please.
Hello, everybody.
Karen is part of, they have a family business called Café Capel, which deals with smallholders in Antigua. And also she works with a family at the Finca San Jose Buenavista. We have Fernando Diaz Ortega, or just Nando. You can say hello.
Hi, everybody.
Nando is the owner of Fincas Santa Ana and Idolia, which are like multi-award winning farms. Nando is always participating in Cup of Excellence. He does some amazing coffees. He also has two other farms that are called Amatillo and Cielito, and in Santa Rosa department. And we have André Melendez from Finca Liquidambari in Jalapa. André, say hello. Awesome. So Finca Liquidambari is a new farm in Jalapa, so very productive, pretty much like a virgin soil, really cool farm, lots of potential. Okay. So the first question that we want to ask and we want to propose to people, and you can go to the chat session to reply before we start, is when I go to Origin, a lot of people ask me that. A lot of producers want to know, why are roasters not visiting producing countries more often? They say like, oh, we're making all this effort, we're going to Europe, we're going to World of Coffee, we're trying to visit them, so why are they not coming to us more? And I understand, like, yes, it can be difficult, there are many barriers, but we want to hear from you guys as well. What are the main barriers? What are the main difficulties? So you can just reply to that afterwards, and we'll read it later in the end of the call. So okay, I'll stop talking now. And Chris and Mario, please, if we can start our trip by explaining a little bit about Guatemala, explaining a little bit about the different regions, and where your coffee farms are located.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So Guatemala, as you all know, is a very well-known country for coffee. We have various regions that produce coffee. Most of them, or most all of them, are regions that are pretty high in elevation. That also contributes to the quality of coffee that we have. Also, like Luiza mentioned, Guatemalan coffee producers tend to be very close or very sentimental about their crop. So they actually pay a lot of attention to everything they do. They add a lot of effort and sweat, and tears. So it's the mix of the country that we have the soil, the producers is we'll get the result is actually great coffee. So starting here, we'll start with the well, pretty much describing the difference between the few regions that we have on screen. For instance, for Santa Rosa, this region is located 82 kilometers southeast of Guatemala City. This is a region that has been producing large quantities of coffee for many years. We can find one volcano, which is Tecuamburro, and a very interesting lagoon, which is called Ixpaco. This lagoon is a body of water, a water that has large quantities of sulfur, and it's naturally hot. I've personally been there, and it's greenish in color, and it's a pretty amazing sight. And then a fun fact is that from the highest peaks, for instance, in Nando's farm, you can actually see the ocean from there if the weather is right. Then,
okay, another region is Jalapa. Jalapa is 140 kilometers east of Guatemala City. This is an upcoming coffee region. The micro region in Jalapa is well known is Mataquescuintla. Mataquescuintla have a lot of experience with coffee, but in Jalapa, a lot of new sub-regions are starting to grow in coffee. And this is the case of André, that is growing coffee in Jalapa. And in Jalapa, you can find a lot of Pache and Catuai varieties.
okay. Continuing with Antigua. Antigua is a region located 45 kilometers away from Guatemala City. Antigua is very particular because it has three volcanoes, which is the Acatenango volcano, Fuego, and Agua. For this reason, they obviously have volcanic soils. It is one of the most touristic, if not the most touristic city of the country. And a fun fact about Antigua is that it is recognized as one of the first regions to have coffee. And it's an impressive job that what Karen is doing, because they're working with smallholders, and these producers, their farms are not huge, so they're not big at all, and they still produce a very, very, very good quality, and it's even though they don't have the amount of coffee that other farms do, they still are able to transmit the same values.
Well, now the turn of Acatenango. Acatenango is my region. We are located in 83 kilometers west of the city. And Acatenango is a valley. We are below the Acatenango volcano. We have the Acatenango volcano and Fuego volcano, so our soils are with volcanic soils, very rich. We have a really interesting thing in Acatenango, because we receive the cold air from the high mountains in Guatemala and cross with the hot air from the ocean. So that creates a really, really great microclimate there.
Okay, and then the region where my farm and wet mill is located is Amatitlan, not to be confused with Lake Atitlan. Amatitlan is a much, much smaller lake, very close to the city. It is actually 26 kilometers away from Guatemala City, south of Guatemala. So my farm is right in the middle, in between Volcan Pacaya and Amatitlan Lake. So what you'll find in the terroir of Amatitlan is a very rich volcanic soil. It is very rocky and dry. Just because of the placement of where it is, we will get a lot of lake effect. This lake effect is, I think, one of the best things, or the best things that we have, because it creates a unique microclimate. And the other thing is, my particular farm is drier than other farms just because of where it's placed. It is placed on the side of a mountain, where it is very difficult to get rain. Not as common from other farms in the area, but that's my microclimate right there.
And Chris and Mario, I see a lot of people, they talk about, when they ask about regions, specific regions, they ask a lot about what the profile, the sensory profile of the coffees will be like, or a classic profile will be like. Do you believe that you can give like an approximate profile, or is it something that changes so often that you think like when people do it, they're stretching it a little bit?
I think the reason why we didn't include flavor profile after a little bit of a discussion with Mario is that we think that in Guatemala you can find various flavor profiles. It's not particular of a farm, of a region. Remember, flavor profile has to do a lot with the processing, and processing, varietals, soils. Even though each region has different soils, most of the soils are volcanic or clay. So I would think it is a little bit of a stretch to say that each region has a particular flavor or flavor profile. If anything, I would say that each region probably has a particular way of how to process the coffee. This is because of people's experience. And obviously there's other regions that, for instance, in my region, in Amatitlan, for many years, we were very influenced with what happened in Antigua. So many of the producers in my region process their coffee similarly to Antigua. So I wouldn't go as far to say like each region has their own flavor profile.
Okay, cool. And we were talking a little bit about as well, why is it important for roasters to visit growers? I believe that's something that you also wanted to discuss and share with people here.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's two points of view here. On the roaster side, I think it is very important because experiencing firsthand the challenges, the effort that each person, each producer has to do to actually get to their goal or to the cup of coffee that they will offer at the end is, I think it is very difficult to perceive with pictures and videos. Obviously, pictures and videos will help. It is better than not having them, but it is definitely not the same. I mean, when you arrive to origin, you will see lots of things that happen in the background, which at the end, I think it's the richest part of the visit. You will see how people behave. You will see how people are actually, if you're there during harvest, how people actually harvest.
And if you can tell the story, because if you can experience all the coffee process and the visit and everything, and you feel it, it's easier for you to transmit that experience to your customer. It's not just like the story that is in the web page or in the Instagram page. It's what you can tell them, what you can experience in the visit. It's much more efficient. I know the word.
Yeah. For instance, so at the end, it's origin trips have the beauty that to change the perspective of just coffee, of just a coffee cup to actually an experience, like Mario said. Now, on the other point of view, which is the producer's point of view, I think it's very important because us as producers, it is very satisfying to get to know the person who will probably purchase the coffee and will be enjoying the coffee that comes out of our farms. Then it is also a great honor for us. Why? Because at the end of the day, we only do part of the job towards having an awesome cup of coffee. the roaster is the roaster or the coffee shop owner or the barista is the person who actually has the job to transmit the last part of the link. And then on another point of view, more towards improving to the future, is that feedback is always great. Feedback is probably one of the best things we have for we have as producers, because it allows us to have a better product in the future.
Cool. So before doing this, I was talking to one of our sales managers, Tom. He looks after the UK, and we were talking about, like, for some roasters it's just really hard to visit for any number of reasons. So like asking people here today, we got country risk, time, right partners as a few of the barriers that people face. There might be also money, or also other problems that make it harder for roasters to visit. It's all like very understandable, and we're trying, like we were thinking, Tom and I, of how can we use technology to help us to make more our presence in origin a bit more like, to have more of the experience, to have it more palpable, to have it more realistic. So we were like wanting to brainstorm this with you guys here. So do you have ideas of like what can be done to in times where we can't travel, like right now, to feel like we have more of the origin experience? So like this is one. Tom was talking about webcams. I don't know if webcams in the farms would work. It was like, just brainstorm, give us suggestions, and like let's see if we can do things better in the future trips as well. So now I think we can start actually going into the farms. So we can start with Fernando. So Fernando, if you can talk a little bit about your farm and what people see when they go there, what can they expect?
Sure. In a normal visit, I would say that what people would expect and they would see in a visit is at first, contact with nature and the people involved in this in the labor. Basically, you end up seeing all the part of the depending on the season that you come to the plantation, you can see any part of the processing. We just end up harvest. In my case, it was like a month ago that we end up harvest. Now we're dealing with the traditional work on winter. For us, we call winter when the rainfall comes. So when the rain starts, that is going to start hopefully in a week or something like that. That's when the normal jobs happens. In my point of view, it's one of the best moments to see a farm. May, June, because everything is greenish. Everything. There's a lot of blossom and there's a lot of nice colors. In the summer, that's our dry season. We call it summer, but it's actually the dry season. Everything is more, brownish, but you see the harvest, which is a great moment, to visit a farm. But that's when usually I would say 90+% of the roasters or the importers come to origin and see and see and look out to various farms. So I would say that's what you will be expecting on a normal visit. I would say for the most part of the farmers, of the coffee growers, it's just great to hang around with guys from other countries. We don't feel like they taking time apart from us. Everything in the farm goes in a different pace. not as in the city jobs, you know, that everything is like scheduled and you have times pretty tight. Everything goes in a much more slower pace. So for us to take people visit a farm, it's just you know, another thing in a day that it doesn't distract us. We actually enjoy it. So Luisa, that's what I can add on about a visit.
Okay, so I'm just sharing a few photos here from your farm. So for everyone, this is Whiskey. This is Nando's dog. Is amazing dog, really cool. Followed us around all the way while we were there. And on the photo on the right here, this is in Nando's house at the farm. We had some problems with the boiler when we arrived there, and that kind of like set our visit back a few hours because we had to make sure that the boiler was working before we could set to the mill. And it was pretty messy, right? But in the end, we got everything going. This is Samuel. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about Samuel.
Yeah, Samuel, the farm's been in the family for 36 years now. My father bought it to a guy who was in a lumber business. He had a wood mill. So he bought these different small farms, small size farms. I ended up buying 4. This guy, he chopped wood out. And in that moment, that will be like 40, 50 years ago, the law permitted you to chop forests down, but you have to plant coffee. So it was an incentive to have more coffee plantations in Guatemala. So he ended up cutting most of the wood, and then he sold the farm to my father. My father ended up hiring Samuel when he was very young. He's been like 25 years now with us in the farm. So I would say he's my right man. He's my right hand. He runs the show. He's the guy, and he knows pretty much what he's doing, and knows our focus on quality over quantity. He has learned a lot about it, and the crew. We run the farm with 11 guys plus him. So he's in charge of transmitting this idea to all the guys, and he does an amazing job.
No, I remember you saying that he runs the show so you can do the stuff that you like, that is looking into processing, experimenting,
yeah.
in your varietal garden. Because we have a question on the Q&A here of like, oh, what kind of variety, like coffee varieties you get in Guatemala? And if you go to your farm, I think the answer is like all of them, because you get everything in your farm, right?
Yeah, I did actually answer that Q&A question, and in general for Guatemala, I would say Bourbon and Catuai is the most common. I don't know if the rest of the producers here will say the same, but I think that's the most. 70% of the coffee in Guatemala is that.
Bourbon,
in my
Catuai.
case, yeah. In my case, yeah, we have over 60 varietals in the farm. I have a totally different point of seeing the coffee growing business as an actually business, So yeah, that's right, Luisa. We're not the traditional. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's whiskey. That's the Rhodesian Ridgeback that Luisa was talking about. Yeah.
So I'm just showing some photos of the mill and your beautiful cupping room at the farm. That really impressed me. It's like a really nice place to do a cupping. Just so we can start with cutting a bit as well, because otherwise our journey is gonna be delayed. So, Karen, hello. How are you?
Everybody fine. I'm sorry for all the when I began, so I have a little problems. Okay. So I talk something about me. Okay. So I'm Karen. I work in coffee around 15 years ago. I'm a curator, but it was very hard for me when I got to when I had to, when I got the certificate, because I never taste another coffees. I only taste Guatemalan coffees, and in special my region, Antigua. So when I was taking the course and of curator, and I was taste African and Asia coffee, so I said, oh my God, what is that? In some moment, I think, okay, Karen, it's not for you. So go home. But my other Karen said, no, you can do it. So in the first time, I only want 15 exams. So then I needed a travel to Mexico, and I was going another exams. So I got it, and now I'm a curator. So all this process give me more experience, because now when I taste the coffee, I feel different taste, flavors, and I really enjoyed my job, and I really love when I taste all the coffees. Every day I fall more in love with the coffee. When I taste the coffee, when I visit and I walk in my farm, when I smell the fresh air in the field, and look the plants where it's time to crop, really it's amazing for me. Now I talk something about my farm, San Jose Buenavista. This farm it was architected by my dad, Adolfo, 20 years ago. At that time, people don't like this land because it was very cloudy area with heavy rains, and it was inaccessible roads. You can only get there on foot and on horseback. But the experience to go into the farm was worried because reaching the farm, you could see the wonderful view. I really love this view because you look majestic water volcano and the impossible fire volcano and the different varieties and the song of the birds. It's very special. My dad named San Jose for the area who is located. People in this place named this area San Jose del Barranquito. And Buena Vista because when it's totally clear, it can see the wonderful volcanoes. Our farms have different microclimates, sandy, low soil, they're rich in volcanic minerals that give different quality coffee characteristics. When you arrive to Ciudad Vieja, first I'm waiting for you. Then I present to my family, my dad, and
you give us some coffee as well. That was one of the first things that you did when we arrived.
Yeah.
Some really nice coffee. Showed us around.
Yeah. Then we need change cars because when we go to our farms, we need a truck because doesn't have pavement roads, so you will jump in all the way. So Luisa, you have a little experience. Yeah. Get to the farm is really all an adventure because the road is some complicated, has many stones and vines, but yes, you will enjoy the fresh air and a lot of green areas. And I I love this because along the way you meet many smallholders, um, getting to their farms by foot, bicycle, or on horseback, and they bridge your day because without know you, they tell you hello, be careful, have a nice day, and they are always so happy. Um,
This on the photo. This on the photo is Don Antonio, right? He
yeah,
was really impressive, like doing all his financial planning, so he could wait to get, so he could leave the coffee in consignation with you guys, get paid later, but get paid better. And the
yeah.
other smallholder that we saw, Don Germán, and his dog Mijo, that we all fell in love with.
I love that dog.
Yeah, yeah, he is Don Herman and Mijo. Uh, they are some of small holders in our small company. Café Capeu is my father founded Café Capeu. We work with some small holders, and every crop I taste around coffees of 700 different coffees. Um, we have different varieties as Caturra, Catuai, Yellow Caturra, Red Bourbon, and Yellow Bourbon. Work with a smallholder, it's it's some difficult in some times because they don't like that for example me said that they need to change some processing of your coffee, but I always learn about them. They really love their job. They love uh, uh, the crop coffee, and I really love work with them. They, Christian, how do you say confiable?
Trustworthy.
Yeah, they trustworthy in me. So I really work to give them the best.
Okay, thanks, Karen. André, I think we can change farms. We can go to yours a bit, go to Jalapa, and you can tell us a bit about that.
Well, hi everyone. Sorry about my English. I do not speak too much in this language, but I'm going to do my best. So, my name is André. I'm 24 years old, and I am a second generation coffee farmer on the Liquidambar farm. Finca Liquidambar is located in the eastern side of the country. It's in Jalapa. It's in the top of a mountain at 1,700 meters from where you can see the little town of San Pedro Pinula. To get there, you will need to you have to travel from 3 hours and a half from the capital city, from Guatemala City, and another half hour in a steep dirt road with many curves. So once you get there, you will see that the temperatures during the day are very warm, but in the night are quite cold. And the plantation are cultivated in a canopy of different kinds of shade trees. And the varieties that we have in the farm are Catuai, Caturra, Pache, Bourbon, and this year we take the decision with my father to start to plant some varieties like Pacamara and Geisha.
And this on the photos is the new mill, the wet mill that it's like 2 years from now that you've had it.
Yeah, we built it 2 years ago, and because my father wanted to withdraw from the coffee cultivation due to the low sea market prices, and so I tried to convince him to make one last effort and start to process our own coffee.
So before you used to sell, you sold cherry direct to an exporter, right?
Yeah.
And those prices were not very good, and hence that's why you guys are processing your own coffee now. Okay.
That's why we decided to start to produce our coffee. So the coffee mill, it's made up by a siphon, a pulper. Christian, how do you say criba?
Escriba.
Screen.
A screen, yeah.
It's a rotary screen. And we have a demusculator that allows us to save a little bit of water because we don't have enough water in the farm.
It's more efficient to wash the coffee.
Yeah. So to dry the coffee, I don't have patios, so I use a black mesh that you can see in the picture now, and it's only for a pre-dry, and then we use a 3-stage dryer, and I have 3 greenhouses to dry the coffee. Recently, I started to do some tests with a honey process and natural process to save a little bit of water too, and that also allowed me to improve my coffee score in a few points. Well, the story of my farm starts with my father, who has been a coffee producer for 20 years, more or less, and 10 years ago he bought what is now Finca Liquidambar, and the crop has sorry has a 7 years old.
Let's go to something a bit milder. Remember this? We were walking around the farm. This is Mario on the photo.
Yeah.
Walking around your farm, and we found this. We found this coffee that we have no idea what it was. That Mario told you to put that aside so you can process it and cup it afterwards. So is that something? Did you do that in the end? Did you separate this coffee?
Yeah, I process a little bit of this coffee and take some samples. I will send it to Mario and Christian later.
Woo!
Ah, cool. Okay. And these were the guys that were working with you as well. You had like lots of pickers out that day because the harvest was a bit late for you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Mario, give us a little bit of tour of your farm as well.
We still have time?
Not a lot, but we can make do, yeah?
Super quickly. Okay, my name is Mario. I'm the owner of Finca El Recuerdo and Monte de Oro. Talking about a little bit of me, I'm 34 years old, married. I'm expecting a baby boy now, so I'm very excited about it.
Congratulations.
I'm the co-owner of True Trading, and what to expect in a visit of my farm. Well, first of all, it's like 2 hours from the city and like 30 minutes in off-road, so it's not too hard. And then when you enter to the farm, you will see the wet mill, and in front the house. We make an effort to build a house for the roasters that want to visit us, to have everything we have kitchen, we have electricity, and we have 3 rooms with 2 beds, and each room have a bathroom, so you feel like home. We want you to feel like home.
My shower
this
is
is my
better than
team.
that though. My shower is better than that shower though.
This is my team. In the right is Lionel. Lionel is my right hand. Is the word? Yeah. He's amazing. He's very intelligent. I have crazy ideas how to process the coffee, and I start to talk with him, and he catch the ideas like this. And in the next week, he's already doing everything we talk, and we make changes in the process, and he's amazing. He makes the magic at the farm. The other 2 guys is Otto and Freddy. They manage the wet mill. Can you change the picture?
Yeah. So here's just, I think I have this. So this is your polytunnel.
Yeah. We make 3 different types of process. We make wash coffees, we make naturals, we make honeys, and we are trying to focus on 2 kinds of coffees. The more traditionals like caturras. We want to offer natural honeys and wash caturras, and we have the exotic or fancy products like the geisha, and we're starting to processing maracaturra and growing SL28. So we want to offer a lot of things. This is a drying house.
Can I just interrupt you a little bit? Just
Yeah.
to let everyone know, we're running a little bit late, but we'll continue.
Okay.
We'll continue for the Q&A, so you can ask questions. And if you can't stay any longer, this will be this is being recorded and it will be available afterwards. But do stay for the questions, because that will be really cool. We're already collecting. Sorry, Mario, go on.
Okay, okay, this is my team, but I'm talking about my drying house. This is a really good experience we have with the roaster in Switzerland, because that's why the relation is important, because he noticed that my coffee starts to decreasing a little bit the quality in March of next year, and he wants more shelf life. So when he comes to the farm, we discuss about everything, and we found it that we need to slow down the drying process, and he helped us, bringing us the money to actually buy the the drying house, and without interest, and we are paying the house year by year with coffee in 4 years. So for us, this is really helpful. And now he's really happy with the quality of the coffee and the shelf life of the coffee, because in May of last year he didn't notice any age flavors in the coffee, and the coffee stays super fresh. Yeah.
This is Chocolate.
Chocolate is my dog, and a fun fact, he born the same day as me, May 26th.
Sorry, I went a bit too fast over there on your drying house, but I think, yeah, we can start. We can move to the Q&A.
Okay.
And I will stop sharing the screen, because that is so I can see the Q&A better.
It was a really cool question, Luiza. What are some of the biggest challenges that growers face growing coffee in Guatemala?
So, Nando, do you want to answer that? Is Nando here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I've been answering some Q&A, so that's why I'm
Okay.
sorry. And I turn off my microphone. Biggest challenges. Well, I would say I already answered that question in text, but I would say that first of all, compared to other businesses, the biggest challenge is nature. One thing that you cannot control that we don't plant coffee in a controlled environment. So we're not able to have more or to control more or less rain or water, or more or less heat, or more or less, you know, whatever affects any plant to grow. Doesn't matter if it's coffee, but it's not like when you have something planted in a greenhouse, which you can control. So that's one of the biggest challenges, because you cannot control. And the second one I would say is selling. You know, it's like any business. You need a lot of product, and then to produce. You know, if you have a factory, you will like to produce a lot of products, and then you want to sell them in a reasonable price. So I would say the second challenge is selling this product in a reasonable price. And all of us are very related to the sea market price, which many coffee growers cannot sustain their operation with that prices. So the challenge is how to get in contact with other consumers of green coffee, which would appreciate the job done and would appreciate paying a little bit more than sea market price. I would say that will be the two biggest challenges.
Okay, so we also had a good question about, so how do smallholders cooperate in Guatemala? Is there any cooperative or governmental help? But I think Karin could help with that. So how do smallholders, they join forces? How do they work together?
Okay, so I need Christian, please, can you translate the question?
Okay. La pregunta es, ¿cuáles son los, what are the challenges for smallholders, right, Luiza? How to cooperate.
Mm-hmm.
¿Cómo hace para que los smallholders, los pequeños productores cooperen todos, y si hay alguna ayuda del gobierno en todo esto?
Okay, thank you. Okay. Not all smallholders work. I have a small group. We give some accessories by my brother, and give some accessories by how it's necessary processing their coffee. We only give, they only give us their coffee in cherry. We doing all the process by wet mill, and we can't receive any help by the government. Only works by different compañías. Companies. I work with Christian and Mario by 2 years, and many smallholders give us the coffee, and the only way to export and buscar.
And search.
What?
Search.
Better price. So we work for the smallholders, but it's very hard. The roasters can know us, and when come to La Antigua, don't know that exist smallholders, because only visit some farms in the central of Antigua, and we are in different areas of Antigua. So when I talk with different people I said we have we have better coffee, but it's small holders, and I have a coffee too, but it's very hard to commercial this coffee. So I really, for example, in my region, is very necessary to visit us and show what is our reality, and really, and to have a better coffee, but it's difficult.
Okay, thanks, Karen. Just to let everyone know, if someone wants to ask a question in a more personable way, we can promote you to a panelist for a bit. So your video will also appear, your screen will also appear. So just raise your hand and we can promote you guys. So the producers can see you and you can and hear you as well. In the meantime, Mari, you had a question here of if you had been affected by the volcano outbreak.
Sorry?
Have you been affected by the volcano outbreak?
No, because the wind takes the ash to the other side and affect more Antigua region.
But in the area, it was pretty bad a few years ago, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And are you guys worried about coronavirus and the implications that might have for selling and exporting coffees from Guatemala?
Yes, I mean coronavirus. It's going to create a different. It will take us out of our comfort zone. Usually, specialty coffee exports start anywhere from May. Or even sometimes April. But I think this year we will be looking at later shipments. Just because roasters right now, they're not selling at full capacity. Not selling at full capacity sometimes, well, it is difficult to actually project how much coffee you will need for a whole year if you're not sure what or when you will start to process again or roast at full capacity. So I think we'll be looking at, or the biggest challenge that coronavirus will give all producers is simply we'll have to be patient. We'll have to wait a little bit for the coffees to leave, and I think the biggest challenge that gives us is the fact that we will be getting paid much later, and that in and of itself it's I think the hardest thing of selling specialty, having to wait until June, July, August for payments. And if coronavirus makes everything take longer, we'll probably be seeing something like September, October payments. So that's what I would think would happen.
Okay, so we're gonna do 2 more questions and then we're gonna wrap up.
Okay.
So one is, I think Nando answered already on the Q&A, but it's nice if other people give their input. So what are the surprises that first-time visiting roasters can experience in Guatemala? And the other thing I want to ask you guys is like, what are you excited about at the moment? Are you working on different processes of coffees? Are you preparing something new?
I'll talk a little bit about that. I think on my side, what I'm excited about is probably the experiments that we'll be doing next year, all the improvements that at least that we do at the wet mill, every single year, I think every single wet mill in Guatemala changes something. There is always feedback. We always get feedback, or both Mario and myself, we always try to give producers feedback. And that hopefully translates into, even if it's a very, very small change, like use recirculating water because it has microorganisms in it, or that will probably give you a better fermentation. Something as small as that, that probably doesn't need any physical change in the wet mill, but it can definitely increase quality. So for me, that's the most exciting part, is cupping the coffees and giving producers feedback, and start to plan what to do next year.
Okay, I think we have Tim that wants to do a question live. So let me go here.
Hello, am I on now? Oh.
You're on now, Tim. Hello.
Hi there.
Hi.
I've got a relatively new coffee business, and we sell coffee to companies, corporate businesses. And I think the big issues for them is understanding whether the farmers who are supplying the coffee are being paid a fair wage for the coffee. And also the sort of ethical considerations, the social considerations on the farm. So are the workers being well looked after, you know, child labor, all those sorts of issues. Because if we can be confident that all those boxes are being ticked, then I think those companies are prepared to pay more for their coffee. So I wanted to understand how important these issues were for you, and how we can get that sort of transparency through from the farm through to, and Algrano do a great job in terms of the pricing. We're getting better at that, but I suppose I wanted to focus a bit more on the social aspects, you know, in terms of how can we be reassured that everyone's being looked after on the farm, because we can promote the coffees better then.
Okay, I think I'll answer this question a little bit with why we created, Mario and myself, why we created the company. So True Trading Company started in 2015. It started because after we, both of us attended SCAA at that time in Seattle. At that point, we used to sell our coffee with other exporters. And I remember we were eating lunch and we started talking about pretty much everything that we didn't like about the traditional exporting process or exporters in Guatemala. One of them being the lack of transparency. And after a couple days of discussion, and we started deciphering what we wanted, we were more in the sense of saying we should do this. I think this was beginning of 2014. And well, a year later, we decided, or Mario told me, hey, look, a couple clients are coming from Korea. Why don't we put into practice what we discussed about 6-8 months ago? And we decided to give it a test run. So at the end, the reason why our company is named True Trading Company is because we want to allow so much transparency that you will always be certain about how much the producer is being paid. Completely different to, well, now you can find a couple companies doing that, but I think we were the first ones to do this. So 100% transparency. We don't mind if the roaster talks to the producer. For instance, if you were to travel to Origin and you'd like to discuss the prices with a producer, we don't mind. I mean, as long as everybody is conscious of our take, which is 30 cents on the pound, $30 or 30 cents per pound, we're perfectly fine. Obviously, being as transparent as we are brings some challenges for us. For instance, as you may know, there's a couple roasters or people who always want to get an even better price, and we run the risk of being jumped through the process or taken out of the process. So this brings me to the producer side. We only work with producers with whom we actually have a lot of trust. We've known them for quite a bit of time. We've built a relationship, and we have definitely had the experience of not representing other producers because of their background or stories that we've heard about them. So we're really picky about who we sell the coffee to and whose this coffee we sell. This, again, on the producer side, it's pretty much all that you said. We have a couple check boxes that we need the producer to fulfill. Like you said, they have to be taking care of their workers. Their workers have to be paid well. No child labor, or for sure, and I think that's part of what we've been searching for since we started the company. It's having a transparent, what we like to call a real direct trade, because we offer the service of, well, finding clients, finding roasters, because sometimes producers do not have the money or the capital to travel and do this, and I think that's our take on it.
Yeah, because I think if we can get the ethical bits set up and package up the story, then price becomes, certainly from my point of view, the sales price to my clients becomes less important. If I've got a great coffee with a great story, then they're prepared to pay for it. It's simple. But I need to be reassured that of the stories that I'm able to tell have got integrity, and it's that transfer of information that's so important, so that everybody's kind of clear what's happening. But I think it overcomes some of the hurdles around price.
Correct. I think that even more than just hearing to like listening to our story and listening to what we do, that's when the origin trips actually brightens up the day, because you can actually come here and see it yourself. You can see that, oh look, I mean, the ethical part is well managed. Producers are actually being paid. It's not just a gimmick that people are saying, because again, one of the things that we didn't like before was that people, they would, I mean, just to name a few, they wouldn't let you talk to the final buyer because they were scared that the producer would figure out what the coffee was being sold for. Usually the middleman was earning upwards of $1 per pound. And even they wouldn't allow producers to talk to the roaster. It would create, there are many taboos many taboos that created an uncomfortable scene when you visited a farm. Another thing that Mario mentioned was payments. Sometimes came something like October, and like I mentioned before, that's a very big financial hit for a producer, because we're always tackled with different challenges. Like Fernando said, we cannot control weather or the climate, so sometimes we need money to respond to some of those changes.
Chris, I think Nando just wants to say a few words, and then after Nando speaks, I think we have to wrap up because we're way over time. And so, like, Nando, if you can just say, like,
don't worry. Yeah, don't worry about time. We have plenty of time. We're enjoying this talk. Don't worry, everybody's at home. Oh, just a quick joke. Luiza. Tim, I understood that you're new in the business, or have you come to Origin? I just want to understand.
New. We're about our business is about 12 months in. So currently we're buying through roasters, but my ambition is to but we're only buying specialty grade coffee.
And have you traveled to Latin America or Origin?
No.
Okay. Let me try to answer you as quickly for Luiza's sake. I would say, Tim, that I'm new in the business also. As you heard, my father bought it 30 something years ago, but I'm in the business 7 years ago. So one of my first questions to buyers, we do direct trade in, I would say, 90% of our coffee. The first question, my first questions I asked to my customers was, would it be helpful for you if I have a certification? And sorry if I'm gonna go in some talks that I don't know. I'm sorry, Luiza, but I have to talk about this. Many of our customers, and our customers are pretty well known coffee roasters in the US. They told me, Nando, we don't need any certifications. We would come here and we will see what's going on. Because these companies, they don't believe in certifications because they have walk around and they know what's going on the farms. So I would say, Tim, that that's one of the best ways to be sure where the money is going to, because I would say that's the only way. And that's maybe your best helpful with Luiza, which she knows coffee plantations, and just is like when you know your own business, you go to another business, and because you have this eye, that you have this experience, you can know what's going on just by looking. So our customers, they come every year to the farm and they see changes. They see where the money goes. They see different conditions of the housing of the workers, or different conditions of the wet mill, or different conditions on the field, or different conditions on whatever. This is just a quick answer, Tim. Just I hope that it's difficult. I understand, because if I want to buy a chocolate from a company, that it was planted on a cacao field, and after all the reviews I've heard and read, I would say big companies, they don't go to the farms. They don't visit. And certifications, I'm not the guy. I don't want to go into certification talk, because I don't trust the guys, because I've seen what they've done to other farms, and they don't really go in deep on what's going on the farm. They don't really do their job.
I'm not going down that route. I don't think certification is necessarily the right route forward. I think it's just about people like myself being able to get the information from the farms, the stories, the interesting stories around ethics and environmental issues, and all of that stuff that's going to translate into a higher price paid our end from our customers. And I think what you
guys, I'm really
Origin.
sorry. I'm going to have to stop the Q&A now. I think everyone, we kind of like went a lot over time, but just to know, like Tim and other attendees, you can drop us questions if you have more questions. We're going to publish a blog post later with all the answers that you asked, all the answers of the questions that you asked here. And if you have more questions, you can either send us via Instagram and Facebook, or via hello@algrano. And you're free to contact all of the growers via the algrano platform as well. You can email them all on their profiles. They'll have profiles. They'll have their emails there, and you can start a conversation, and they can answer further questions that way. But thank you all very much for coming. don't forget to send us a selfie of this trip. And so we'll send some of the coffees for you guys to taste. Really nice coffee from all of them, actually. Really exciting coffees that we still have some sample in the office. So thank you very much for coming. And yeah, I'll see you soon after coronavirus.
Any questions, we're here to help.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.